Well, as we've just heard, the government has announced a 25-cent rise to the minimum wage. The Dunedin Budget Advisory Service works on the front line with the low paid, and Chief Executive Shirley Woodrow is here with her thoughts on the issue. Good evening, Shirley.
Good evening.
Now, tell us about some of the people that you see that are on the minimum wage. How do they manage?
Often they have to have more than one job, so that might be that the main income earner has two jobs, or that both parents, if it's a couple, that both parents are having to work just to maintain adequate income to cover all their essential costs. Because if you take into account the minimum wage, that once you take tax off, that's only about $440, $450 a week net. By the time you take out $250, $300 for rent, it doesn't leave much for everything else. So even just with rent, power, phone, food, that's the money gone.
Now, unions are saying that the minimum wage is inadequate to keep low-income families out of poverty. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it is, but it's also, like, if it's a single person, it's not quite so bad, although it's still a struggle. If it is a family, they then get family tax credits on top of that and in-work tax payments, so that boosts the level of income that they have coming into the house, and they may also be eligible for accommodation supplement depending on how much they're paying. But it's still very low, and often the things that really hit hardest are when there's unexpected expenditure. So the fridge breaks down, the washing machine breaks down, something happens to the car, and often those on a low income, once a car gets to the stage of costing a lot to repair, it becomes uneconomical, but they can't afford to replace it. So they get into a really tight bind of, do we try and replace it, and how do they cover that? And that's when a lot of people go to lending institutions and borrow money that they can't really afford to repay. But often they need the transport to get to work. You get slightly outside normal work times. How do you get to and from your job?
Will 25 cents an hour extra make any real difference?
Well, it's only $10 a week gross, so that's less than that net. You just look at how much petrol's gone up recently, and I know personally how much it costs us now for meat, just for the two of us that are left at home. That has gone up so much in the last few years, and when they do a cost of living increase, like on benefits, which are really low, it doesn't really cover what's already happened. Low income's the same. It's really difficult for people to actually cover all those basic costs. And yes, I suppose in a way it's a token. Yes, it's gone up, but it isn't really very much, and it'll buy 3 loaves of bread, extra bread a week, 4 loaves of bread, and that's it.
Now, the government says that the increase will protect low-paid workers and ensure that their jobs aren't lost as the economy recovers. What's your reaction to that?
I can understand what they're saying, and that if they put it up too much, then how do employers afford to keep staff on? And I know that I've been asked to talk to several places lately where they're really struggling to keep workers employed. So you've got to get the balance between the two, but at the same time, is it an actual living wage? Don't really think so. And so, because the other side of it is that if the government puts up the minimum wage, then what do they do for the people above that? They then say, hey, we've lost our relativity, and so we want a pay increase. So that then puts the employer in a very difficult situation and greatly increases their outgoings on wages, which can put them in a difficult situation as well.
Aside from increasing the minimum wage, is there anything else the government could do?
Maybe give more assistance to those on the lowest incomes in additional things like the family tax credit, like the in-work tax credit, without necessarily increasing the cut-out points, but actually increasing the amount that they give at the levels that they're currently eligible for those types of assistance.
Dunedin Budget Advisory Service Chief Executive Shirley Woodrow, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.